For the sixth time, Krell, humans aren't that complicated, I shouted, slamming my 4 appendages on the dashboard of our patrol vehicle. They are just peculiar. Krell, my human partner of 3 solar cycles, shot me one of those looks. You know the one. The raised eyebrow, the slight tilt of the head, the pursed lips. I'd studied human facial expressions enough to know this one meant, "Are you kidding me right now?" "Vex, buddy," Krell said slowly, as if explaining quantum physics to a hatchling. "You just spent 20 minutes freaking out because I mentioned my sister's friend was cute." I felt my scales flush a vibrant purple. Embarrassing. That's different. You have never mentioned this Jessica before. How was I supposed to know she wasn't a potential mate you were considering? Krell nearly spat out his bitter brown morning liquid. Coffee, they call it. Smells divine, tastes like liquefied engine parts. Trust me, I tried it once and my third stomach still hasn't forgiven me. Potential mate? Good grief. She's my sister's college roommate. I have known her since she was 18. And? Is that not an appropriate age for human mating rituals? I asked, genuinely confused. The vehicle swerved slightly as Krell choked on another sip of his coffee. That's not, technically yes, but look, she's like family. That would be weird. I blinked all 3 of my eyes in succession, a gesture my species uses to show confusion. But she isn't actually your family, correct? No shared genetic material? No, but... And you said she was, quote, cute, which implies physical attraction, does it not? Well, yes, objectively speaking, but... So by your own admission, she meets both biological and aesthetic criteria for a potential mate, yet you are dismissing the possibility because of feelings? I waved my upper limbs in what I hoped was a suitably dismissive human gesture. Krell sighed. That deep, prolonged exhale humans do when they are gathering patience. I have heard it often. Human relationships are complicated. Clearly. Your species bases pair bonding decisions on nebulous emotional constructs rather than practical considerations. It's wildly inefficient. Krell rolled his eyes. Another fascinating human gesture I have come to appreciate, says the alien whose species builds relationship compatibility charts based on the position of subatomic particles at the moment of hatching. It's quantum entanglement-based compatibility mapping, and it's scientifically proven. I huffed, my dorsal spines rising in indignation. You literally have arranged marriages based on physics. And you have dating apps where humans swipe on facial images. How is that more sophisticated? The patrol vehicle's comms system mercifully interrupted our debate with a sharp beep. Dispatch's voice crackled through the speakers. Unit 47, we have got reports of suspicious activity at the old Garrison warehouse. Possible illegal tech smuggling. Proceed with caution. Krell grabbed the receiver. Copy that, dispatch. Unit 47 responding. I flicked a switch, activating the vehicle's emergency lights. Finally, some actual work instead of discussing your baffling mating hesitations. Krell gunned the engine, sending us speeding through the busy streets of New Aurora, the first human-alien integrated city on Earth. We are not done with this conversation, scale face. And oh yes, we are, smooth skin. The warehouse district loomed ahead, a maze of identical gray buildings that humans somehow navigated without trouble. My species has superior vision in most respects, but humans have us beat on facial and pattern recognition. Probably from millennia of needing to identify predators hiding in bushes, or so anthropologists theorize. As we approached the warehouse, I noticed something odd. Krell, the energy signature is all wrong. He slowed the vehicle, eyes narrowing. What do you mean? I adjusted the scanner settings on my wrist device. This isn't consistent with black market tech. It's fluctuating, almost organic. Smuggled biotech? Krell suggested, parking the vehicle in a shadowed alley a safe distance from the warehouse. Possibly. Or, I hesitated. What? Remember that case last month? The one with the Zoraxian bioweapons? Krell's face hardened. How could I forget? That slime nearly dissolved my favorite jacket. And you inside it, I reminded him. The energy signature is similar, but different, more controlled. Great, Krell muttered, checking his pulse pistol. I just had this uniform cleaned. We approached the warehouse cautiously, using the surrounding containers as cover. And the building looked abandoned, windows broken, graffiti covering the walls. Typical human urban decay. But my scanner showed significant energy readings inside. 3 life forms, I whispered, reading the data. 2 human, 1 unknown. Krell nodded, his expression serious. Back entrance? Affirmative. We circled around, keeping low. The back door was ajar, which immediately triggered my suspicion circuits. Too easy, I murmured. Agreed. Probably a trap. So we spring it? Krell grinned. That particular human expression I have learned means either I'm about to do something brave or I'm about to do something incredibly stupid. Often both. Got a better idea? Actually, yes, we could call for backup, set up a perimeter, and… Boring. Krell declared, and before I could stop him, he kicked the door open and shouted, Police. Hands where I can see them. Sometimes I wonder how humans survived long enough to develop space travel. The warehouse interior was dimly lit, with shafts of sunlight streaming through broken windows. The space was mostly empty, except for some abandoned machinery, and in the center, a makeshift laboratory setup surrounding what appeared to be a glowing egg? 2 humans in lab coats stood frozen, hands halfway raised. Behind them, something shifted in the shadows. Step away from the… whatever that is, Krell ordered, his pistol trained on the scientists. You don't understand, one of them said, a female with short gray hair. We can't leave it now. The incubation cycle is critical. The other scientist, a male with unusually large facial hair, nodded frantically. If we stop now, the consequences could be catastrophic. I scanned the glowing object. Krell, that's not an egg. It's a quantum field generator disguised as biological material. Is that bad? He asked, never taking his eyes off the scientists. Depends on what quantum field they are generating. The thing in the shadows moved again, and this time I got a better look. My blood ran cold. Krell, we need to leave. Now is now. What? Why? Because that, I said, pointing at the emerging figure, is a Nyx Thalian void manipulator. The creature slithered forward into the light. It resembled a humanoid shape composed entirely of swirling darkness, with pinpoints of light where eyes should be. The scientists looked at it with a mixture of fear and awe. The gateway must open, the creature said, its voice like gravel being crushed. The convergence approaches. Yeah, that's gonna be a no from me, Shadow Dude, Krell said, adjusting his aim toward the creature. The female scientist looked desperate. Please. We are so close to understanding the multiverse. The Nyx Thalian is showing us how to create stable interdimensional portals. I snorted. And you believed it? Nyx Thalians don't share knowledge. They consume realities. Consume? What now? Krell asked, his confidence visibly wavering. They are interdimensional parasites. They trick species into opening gateways, then their hive floods through and devours everything. The male scientist looked shocked. But it promised us unlimited energy. Advanced technology. Of course it did, I said, rolling all 3 eyes simultaneously. That's how they operate. Classic cosmic predator behavior. The Nyx Thalian's form rippled, expanding slightly. Your understanding is limited, Salaxian. We bring transcendence. You bring extinction, I countered. Krell, shoot the generator. Krell didn't hesitate, swinging his pistol toward the glowing pseudo-egg and firing 3 rapid shots. The generator sparked and sputtered, its glow intensifying before abruptly dying. The Nyx Thalion shrieked, a sound that seemed to bypass our ears and reverberate directly in our brains. The scientists collapsed, clutching their heads. "You have doomed yourselves," the creature hissed, its form becoming unstable, edges blurring. "The gateway was your only hope of survival." "Survival from what?" Krell demanded. "From what follows me," the Nyx Thalion said, its voice fading as its form began to disintegrate. "I am merely the scout." With a final, silent implosion, the creature vanished, leaving nothing but a faint smell of ozone. The warehouse fell silent except for the groaning scientists on the floor. "Well," Krell said after a moment, holstering his pistol, "that was dramatic." I checked my scanner. No residual energy. Whatever connection it had to its home dimension is severed. "Good," Krell said, moving to handcuff the scientists. "I hate paperwork, but I hate interdimensional invasions more." "You know," I said, helping him secure the dazed humans, "this is exactly what I was talking about earlier." "What, cosmic parasites?" "No, humans making terrible decisions based on emotions." These scientists were so excited about discovery that they ignored all safety protocols. Krell paused, giving me an incredulous look. "Are you seriously connecting our conversation about Jessica to an alien invasion attempt?" "The principle is the same. Emotional decision-making leads to disaster. Vex, there's a slight difference between me not dating my sister's friend and scientists nearly causing the apocalypse. Only in scale, not in concept." Krell sighed, that familiar sound of human exasperation. "Let's just call this in." As he radioed for backup and containment specialists, I couldn't help but wonder about the Nyx Thalion's final words. "I am merely the scout." That didn't sound good. While waiting for reinforcements, Krell suddenly asked, "So in your species, you really never choose your own mates?" "It's complicated," I admitted. "The quantum compatibility matching is just the first stage. After that, there's a long courtship process where both parties evaluate practical factors like resource management styles, habitat preferences, and larval rearing philosophies." "How romantic," Krell said dryly. "It's practical. Our divorce rate is less than 2%. Because you are all matched by particle physics, or partially. And because we approach relationships as logical partnerships rather than emotional roller coasters." Krell seemed to consider this. "Doesn't that get boring?" The question caught me off guard. "Boring? Relationships aren't supposed to be entertainment, Krell. But don't you ever want passion? Surprise? That flutter in your do you have stomachs? That flutter in your stomachs when you see someone special?" I shifted uncomfortably. We have 3 stomachs, and no fluttering in any of them would indicate a serious digestive issue requiring immediate medical attention. Krell laughed, that strange barking sound humans make when amused. "You are missing out, buddy." Before I could formulate a suitable retort, backup arrived, 3 patrol vehicles and a containment van screeching to a halt outside. Captain Doran, a stern human female with skin the color of Earth's soil and hair cropped close to her skull, approached us as we exited the warehouse. "Report," she demanded without preamble. Krell straightened his posture. "Interdimensional incursion attempt, Captain. Nyx Thalion scout using human scientists to build a gateway. We neutralized the threat and detained the collaborators." Doran's eyes widened slightly, the only indication of surprise she ever showed. "Nyx Thalion? You are certain?" I nodded. Positive identification. And it suggested others might follow. "Great," Doran muttered. "Just what we need. I will notify Galactic Security Council." "Good work, both of you." As containment specialists swarmed into the warehouse, Krell and I returned to our patrol vehicle. "So," Krell said as we pulled away, "about Jessica." I groaned, all 3 eye stalks drooping in resignation. "We just prevented an interdimensional invasion, and you want to return to your baffling mating hesitations?" "I'm just saying, maybe you could meet her sometime. She's interested in xenobiology. You two might hit it off." I froze, my scales shifting to a pale yellow of shock. Are you attempting to set me up with this human female? Krell grinned. Why not? Interspecies dating is legal now. That's, I sputtered, genuinely at a loss for words. What happened to practical considerations, huh? Wouldn't a xenobiologist be a perfect match for you? Think of the stimulating conversations. Krell, our species aren't even biologically compatible. Who said anything about biology? I'm talking about dinner and conversation. I stared at him, truly perplexed. You humans are impossible to understand. That's what makes us interesting, Krell replied with a wink. Besides, after today's excitement, a nice dinner might be just what you need. As we drove back toward the precinct, I found myself actually considering his suggestion. Perhaps there was something to this human approach to relationships after all. Not that I'd ever admit it to Krell. The comms system beeped again. Another call, another case. Work, at least, was something I understood perfectly. But as we responded to the call, a small, traitorous thought crept into my mind. I wondered what this Jessica was like. Perhaps humans were rubbing off on me more than I cared to admit. I'm not sure if that's a good thing. 3 days after the warehouse incident, I found myself doing something I never imagined, sitting across from Jessica Lynn at the Cosmic Spoon. It's a restaurant specifically designed for interspecies dining. Each table featured adjustable gravity settings, atmosphere bubbles, and specialized utensils for various anatomies. So, you are really from Salax Prime? The atmospheric composition there must be fascinating, Jessica said, her eyes only two, but quite expressive wide with enthusiasm. I adjusted my breathing apparatus slightly. Earth's atmosphere was tolerable for my species, but restaurant settings with their concentrated food aromas could be overwhelming. Yes, our atmosphere has 32% more sulfur compounds than Earth's. Makes for spectacular sunset colors, I replied, trying to sound casual while my inner monologue screamed, "What are you doing here, Vex?" Jessica nodded eagerly, making notes on her small electronic pad. Amazing. And does that affect your respiratory system's evolution compared to similar species from low-sulfur environments? This wasn't what I expected. When Krell mentioned dinner and conversation, I'd prepared for awkward small talk about Earth weather and entertainment broadcasts. Not a scientific interrogation about my biological makeup. It resulted in our triple-chambered lung structure and weight. Are you studying me right now? I asked, suddenly suspicious. Jessica's face flushed pink. Humans do this when embarrassed, I'd learned. Sorry. Professional habit. I get excited about xenobiology and forget social boundaries. Krell warned me about this. Did he now? What else did Krell say about me? I asked, genuinely curious what my partner had told this human female. That you are brilliant but stubborn, that you overthink everything, and that you have the best reaction when confused. Something about your eye stalks doing a little dance? She demonstrated with her fingers, making a wiggling motion above her head. My eye stalks immediately stiffened in indignation. They do not dance. They perform a culturally significant gesture of contemplation. Jessica laughed, a pleasant musical sound. There, that's exactly what he said you'd say. I felt my scales flush purple again, betrayed by my own partner and my traitorous biology in one evening. Wonderful. The server approached a Florvian with graceful tendrils carrying our drinks. Jessica had ordered something called a mojito. I had opted for fermented mineral water with nitrogen bubbles, a rare treat on Earth. So, I said, desperate to change the subject, Krell mentioned you are a xenobiologist. Where do you work? Galactic Science Foundation. I specialize in cross-species medical adaptations. Basically, I help develop treatments that work for multiple species. She took a sip of her drink. Right now, I'm working on universal antibiotics. Important work, I acknowledged, genuinely impressed. The refugee crisis from the Andromeda conflict has brought many new species to Earth. Jessica nodded solemnly. Exactly, and our medical infrastructure isn't prepared. Just last week we had a Tandovian child with a simple infection that nearly turned fatal because we couldn't synthesize the right antibiotic fast enough. Our food arrived a protein structure modified to suit my digestive system and something called pad thai for Jessica. As we ate, our conversation flowed surprisingly easily, jumping from xenobiology to interstellar politics to strange human customs. Wait, I said, mandibles clicking in confusion. Humans deliberately watch entertainment designed to trigger fear responses? For pleasure? Jessica grinned. Horror movies? Absolutely. The adrenaline rush is addictive for some people. But why? Your species evolved fear as a survival mechanism, and deliberately triggering it seems counterproductive. Sometimes it's fun to be scared when you know you are actually safe, Jessica explained, like roller coasters or haunted houses. I shook my head. Humans are bizarre, says the alien with color-changing mood scales, she teased. An involuntary biological response, not something we do for fun. Jessica leaned forward, her expression suddenly serious. Can I ask you something personal, Vex? My third stomach fluttered. Definitely a digestive issue. Nothing to do with her engaging conversation or the way her eyes caught the light. Go ahead. Why did you agree to meet me? Krell said you spent 20 minutes ranting about how humans approach relationships illogically. I nearly choked on my mineral water. He told you that? He tells me everything. We have been friends since college. I considered lying but decided honesty was the logical approach. Scientific curiosity. I wanted to understand why Krell thought we would be compatible despite our obvious biological differences. And? What's your conclusion so far? She raised one eyebrow in that fascinating human way. Inconclusive. More data required, I said, then immediately regretted how clinical it sounded. But Jessica laughed again. Fair enough. I feel the same way. The evening continued pleasantly until my wrist device beeped urgently. Emergency alert from the precinct, I explained, checking the message. My eye stalks straightened in alarm. I have to go. Now. Jessica nodded immediately. Of course. Work emergency? Potentially. The energy signature we detected at the warehouse 3 days ago has reappeared. Multiple locations. Her expression changed to concern. The one with the interdimensional being? That sounds bad. I paused, surprised by her knowledge. Krell told you about that too? Only the basics. Classified case, right? I nodded, already standing. I apologize for cutting this short. No apology needed, Jessica said, standing as well. Go save the world. Or whatever part of it needs saving. I hesitated, feeling I should say something more, but uncertain what human protocol dictated. Jessica solved my dilemma by saying, I had a great time, Vex. Let me know when you are free again, and be careful out there. I will. Thank you for understanding. 20 minutes later, I was at the precinct where chaos reigned. Officers rushed about, screens displayed multiple alert locations, and Captain Doran barked orders from the center of the room. Krell spotted me and hurried over. There you are. How was your date? It wasn't a date. It was an anthropological research meeting, I insisted. What's happening? Krell's expression turned serious. Remember our Nyx Thalian friend? Looks like he wasn't kidding about being a scout. We have got energy signatures matching the warehouse pattern at 7 locations around the city. Captain Doran approached, her face grim. Officer Vex, good. You are the only one who recognized the Nyx Thalian immediately. I need your expertise. She led us to the central display, showing a map of New Aurora with 7 pulsing red dots. The signatures appeared simultaneously 30 minutes ago, she explained. They are growing stronger. Containment teams are en route, but we don't know exactly what we are dealing with. I studied the pattern, a terrible realization dawning. They are not random locations. They are forming a septogram. A what now? Krell asked. A 7-pointed star. It's a multi-dimensional framework. I quickly connected the dots on the screen. The Nixthalian scout wasn't trying to open a single gateway. It was laying groundwork for a full invasion network. Captain Doran's expression darkened. How do we stop it? We need to disrupt all 7 nodes simultaneously, or the energy will simply redirect to the remaining points. I turned to Krell. Remember the quantum field generator? Each location probably has a similar device acting as an anchor point. 7 locations, limited personnel, Doran mused. We will need to coordinate perfectly. I might know someone who can help, I said, an idea forming. A xenobiologist specializing in cross-species adaptations. The energy field will affect different species in different ways. We need someone who understands those differences. Doran nodded. Make the call. To my surprise, Jessica arrived at the precinct within 15 minutes, professional and focused. After a quick briefing, she immediately began analyzing the biological readings from the affected sites. These energy signatures aren't just opening spatial rifts, she explained, pointing to her data pad. They are altering the biological composition of everything nearby, realigning it to match Nixthalian physiological parameters. They are terraforming, I realized, preparing Earth's environment for their invasion. Exactly, Jessica confirmed. And different species will be affected differently. Humans will experience it first as hallucinations, then nervous system failure. Salaxians like you, Vex, will likely suffer respiratory collapse as your sulfur processing breaks down. How long do we have? Captain Doran asked. At the current rate of expansion? 3 hours before the changes become irreversible. Doran didn't hesitate. We deploy in 15 minutes. 7 teams, 7 locations. Officer Vex, you will coordinate from here with Dr. Lin. Officer Krell, you will lead Team 1. As the teams prepared, I pulled Krell aside. Be careful. The Nixthalian we encountered was just a scout. These manifestations will be stronger. Krell checked his enhanced pulse pistol. Don't worry, buddy. I have got this. You always say that right before things go horribly wrong. He grinned. Name one time. The Zoraxian slime incident. The lunar colony standoff. The sentient plant uprising in Central Park. Okay, Krell conceded. But this time is different. We know what we are up against. Do we? The scout said what follows me. We don't know what that means. Jessica approached, handing each of us a small device. Biological stabilizers. They should protect you from the worst effects of the energy field for about 30 minutes. Thanks, Krell said, attaching it to his uniform. Keep my scaly friend here out of trouble, will you? Jessica smiled. I will try, but from what you have told me, that's a full-time job. I am standing right here, I protested. As Krell departed with the strike teams, Jessica and I established a command center with direct feeds from all 7 locations. The screens showed similar scenes, abandoned buildings, warehouses, or underground facilities, each containing a pulsing, egg-like generator surrounded by swirling dark energy. The pattern is consistent, I noted. Each generator is at exactly the same stage of activation. Synchronized dimensional harmonics, Jessica suggested. They are resonating with each other across space. The teams moved into position. Through their body cameras, we could see the environment around each generator beginning to warp, colors shifting, surfaces rippling, physics itself becoming unstable. All teams, stand by for synchronized disruption, I instructed through the comms. On my mark, target the base of each generator with concentrated fire. 3, 2, 1, mark. On 7 screens, pulse weapons fired simultaneously. The generators sparked and flared, but instead of shutting down, they pulsed brighter, energy levels spiking. Jessica warned, checking her instruments. Something's happening. The dark energy surrounding each generator suddenly coalesced, forming into humanoid shapes similar to the scout we'd encountered, but larger, more solid. Krell's voice came through the comms, Vex? We have got company. defensive positions. I ordered, "Do not engage directly." Too late. The shadowy figures attacked with startling speed, tendrils of darkness lashing out at the strike teams. Through the cameras, we watched officers being flung aside or enveloped in darkness. Their attacks aren't just physical, Jessica observed, monitoring biological readings. They are disrupting neural pathways on contact, stunning rather than killing. They want hosts, I realized. Living bodies to possess once the environment is prepared. Krell's team was holding their own, keeping the Nyx Thalian manifestation at bay with continuous fire. But other teams were struggling. Team 3 is down, Jessica reported. Team 5 losing ground. Captain Doran, monitoring from another station, made a quick decision. Fall back. All teams fall back and regroup. If we retreat, the network will complete, I warned. If we lose all our people, we lose anyway, Doran countered. I stared at the screens, mind racing. The generators are connected. If we overload one, it might cascade through the entire network. How? Doran demanded. A power surge directed through the quantum field itself. I turned to Jessica. Is that possible? She thought for a moment. Theoretically, yes. We'd need to reverse the polarity of one generator while maximizing its power output. The feedback should propagate through the dimensional links. Krell, I called through the comms, we need you to reconfigure the generator at your location. Dr. Lin will talk you through it. While fighting off shadow monsters? No problem, came Krell's sarcastic reply. Jessica grabbed the microphone. Krell, listen carefully. You need to reach the control panel at the base of the generator. There should be a series of crystalline rods arranging the quantum field. I see them, Krell confirmed, his body camera showing a brief glimpse as he ducked behind cover, pulse fire illuminating the warehouse in strobing flashes. Reverse the second and fourth rods, then overcharge the main power coupling by crossing the primary feeds. That will cause a massive explosion. Krell protested. Yes, Jessica confirmed. You will have approximately 30 seconds to clear the blast radius. Of course I will, Krell muttered. Why would any of this be easy? On screen, we watched as Krell darted from cover, firing continuously to keep the shadow figure at bay. He reached the generator, hands moving quickly over the controls. The rods reversed, he reported. Now for the power coupling. The Nyx Thalian sensed what he was doing. It shrieked that same brain-piercing sound we'd heard from the scout and lunged toward Krell. Look out, I shouted uselessly. Krell didn't look up. He yanked 2 glowing cables from the generator's base and crossed them. Blinding energy surged, and the generator began to pulse erratically. Done. Running now. Krell shouted, sprinting for the exit as the Nyx Thalian clawed at him. All teams, evacuate immediately. Captain Doran ordered. Repeat, full evacuation. On all 7 screens, the generators began to pulse in sync, their glow intensifying. The Nyx Thalian manifestations seemed to sense the danger, abandoning their attacks and converging on the generators as if trying to stabilize them. Energy cascade initiating, Jessica reported, watching her instruments. The quantum fields are collapsing inward. Krell status? I demanded, watching his body camera show a blur of motion as he ran. Almost clear, he panted. A massive surge of light flooded all 7 camera feeds simultaneously, then static. Signal lost, Jessica said, her voice tight. My eye stalks drooped in dread. Krell. For 10 agonizing seconds, there was no response. Then, crackling through the static. Did we win? Relief flooded through me. Krell. What's your status? Slightly singed but alive. That was one hell of a light show. One by one, the teams reported in. Miraculously, all had managed to evacuate in time. The generators had imploded, collapsing the dimensional network and sucking the Nyx Thalian manifestations back to wherever they came from. The crisis was over. Hours later, after debriefings and medical checks, I found Krell in the precinct break room, nursing a cup of coffee. "You did good work today," I told him, settling into a chair modified for Salaxian anatomy. "We all did," he replied. "Your quick thinking saved a lot of lives, and Jessica was brilliant." I nodded. "She was instrumental to our success." Krell studied me for a moment, then smiled. "You like her." "I respect her scientific acumen and crisis management skills," I corrected. "Uh-huh. And the fact that you have turned a nice shade of purple whenever she walks by is just a coincidence?" I huffed. "A physiological response to heightened alertness during emergency situations." "Right. Totally not because you are crushing on her." "Crushing? I would never physically assault." "It means you are attracted to her, scale face." I fell silent, genuinely considering his words. Perhaps there is some truth to that assessment. Krell nearly fell out of his chair. "Did you just admit I'm right about something?" "Alert the media." "Don't make me regret it," I warned. "So what are you going to do about it?" "Do? Nothing. Our species are biologically incompatible. Any relationship would be impractical." Krell sighed. "There you go overthinking again." "Not everything needs to be practical, Vex. Sometimes things can just be enjoyable." "Like your horror movies?" I asked skeptically. "Exactly. Life's about experiences, not just logical outcomes." Before I could argue further, Jessica appeared in the doorway. "There you two are. Captain Doran asked me to bring you these preliminary reports on the dimensional residue." She handed us each a data pad, but lingered. "Also, Vex, I was wondering if you might want to continue our dinner sometime. When you are not busy saving the world, of course." I felt all three of my eyes blink in surprise. "You would want to do that? Even after witnessing the dangers associated with my profession?" Jessica smiled. "Maybe because of them. Your quick thinking today was impressive. Besides, I still have about 1,000 questions about Salaxian biology." "For science?" I asked. Mostly, she admitted with a smile, "but also because I enjoy your company." I felt that flutter in my third stomach again. Definitely not a medical emergency. I would like that very much. After Jessica left, Krell looked unbearably smug. "Not a word," I warned him. "Wouldn't dream of it," he said, then immediately added, "So, about human mating rituals being illogical." "They still are," I insisted. "But perhaps there's something to be said for your approach after all. High praise coming from you." I shrugged, a human gesture I'd adopted. "The universe is full of mysteries, some worth exploring despite their apparent illogic." "That might be the most romantic thing I have ever heard you say," Krell teased. "It's not romantic, it's scientific curiosity. Whatever helps you sleep at night, buddy." As we left the precinct that evening, the sky above New Aurora was clear, stars twinkling in patterns both familiar and strange to my eyes. Somewhere out there, beyond the visible spectrum, the Nyx Thalians were regrouping, planning their next attempt. But that was a problem for another day. Tonight I had dinner plans to consider. And perhaps, just perhaps, I was experiencing that human concept Krell always talked about, looking forward to something simply because it would be enjoyable. How utterly, wonderfully illogical.